Hello, everyone. David Serpa here, where for Autism Awareness Month, I'm reading my new book, All the World's a Stage, Unmasking Asperger's Syndrome, all month on YouTube. I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Kathleen Rapp and her group last night. It was fantastic. I got a chance to speak to a group that is a spouse support group, parent support group for people with autism, and it was a great experience for me. It was a really great thing, and I also got a chance to see my book in print for the first time. So thank you guys so much for having me out there for that. Also, I would like to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, David Serpa at eXp Realty, and encourage you to subscribe to a couple of YouTube channels that were instrument in me discovering my own autism and figuring out how I work. And that is Paul from Aspergers from the Inside and Amethyst Shaber from her Ask an Autistic series. Both very fantastic. And the book is now number 23 in autism in the top 100. And I did my first agent mail out yesterday, which is very exciting. So here we go. We're going to jump in to chapter 11, Your Buffers, Friendship, Music, and Myers-Briggs for Aspies. Finding good buffers, anchors, rocks, lighthouses, shamans, guides, partners, spouses is important, and you're going to need a few. You can't do it alone. Many of us on the spectrum have a few friends, family members, or parents that act as a buffer for us to understand the rest of the world. Penelope Trunk, in her article, 3 Things You Need to Know About People with Asperger's, compares people with Asperger's to the annoying car on the road. The car is following the speed limit, not doing anything illegal. However, the car is causing a number of issues for other drivers because it's not conforming to the unwritten rules of the road. When you have Asperger's, you are the annoying car on the road. It's easy to miss if you just speed by the car or if you're headed in the other direction. But for people around us, we can cause issues because we simply don't understand. I understand and can be a stickler for the rules. And before the Marine Corps, I was 100% by the book unless the book was stupid. I have been a great employee at most everywhere that I have worked and would soon get the recognition of my boss and piss off my fellow coworkers. I have a couple of big problems that get me into trouble with coworkers. I work hard, and I'm about what is right and wrong. How is that a problem? Well, I'd like to give you a few real-life examples here, but I will save you the flashbacks of overworking and pissing everyone off around me by reminding them of what they are and are not supposed to be doing while maintaining an irritatingly high standard for myself. The good thing about having friends is that they will tell you when you're being weird versus going around and telling everyone else when you're being weird. They also will listen to you and let you explain the whole reason for why you think what you think, and then will test you or accept you. The problem with having friends is that most of them will inevitably fail you. They will tell everyone something that you told them in confidence. They will leave. They will do something at some point that will test your friendship. It will happen eventually. Good friends don't do terrible things. They just do short-sighted things when they think it might be in their best interest. It can be panic-inducing for a person with Asperger's to lose a friend for any reason, but especially by the choice of the friend. We work very hard to be understood, and being misunderstood is almost unbearable. Some people or teachers can think I am mean, lazy, or disinterested. So it is necessary in life and in business to have buffers that truly understand us and help understand how to fit into the world. I'm going to include you into several of my buffers and why they are my buffers so that you can understand who yours might be. As I mentioned previously, part of my realization that I was autistic came with studying my own Myers-Briggs personality profile. I am an ENTP, which is described perfectly by IDR Labs on YouTube. The video, entitled ENTP in 5 minutes, was the first video I watched that made me feel like there were other people like me on planet Earth. It starts out with a quote, "Above all, my goal is to awaken others from their dogmatic slumbers into intellectual curiosity. I believe there is a correlation between the NTP personality types and autism, but the speculation is wild, not supported by facts, and the topic for another time. My wife, Kate, and I have learned that I am ASD together. It took a while of wrong diagnoses that we both tried on and questioned. She helped me understand when I am overreacting and when I need to be more patient, and it helps me talk out through my days. It's easy to get overwhelmed when you struggle with short-term memory issues, sensory overload, and live in a world where no one can keep up with the schedule. It helps to have an extraordinarily patient wife that I can truly be me around. The Myers-Briggs personality profile is ISFJ. My VP at VA Rep, I'm the president of the Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals, and there's no way that I could do it without Dave Clark. Dave understood and recognized that I'm unorganized and I don't do well with email. He has been a buffer for me with National and with other members of VA Rep. He is a good man and has the experience in the organization that I lack. Myers-Briggs personality profile, ESFJ. My transaction coordinator, Leslie, has been a godsend for me in my career. She is a phenomenal person that handles all of my paperwork and files of the transactions for me and my old real estate team. She also reviews all of the files for me as well. She keeps me compliant, and my clients and agents love her. She keeps me relatively uninvolved in the tasks that do not interest me, that she enjoys. Her Myers-Briggs personality profile, INFP. My mom, I talk to my mom significantly less than I used to, but she still helps me to understand why things around me are happening and how I may have had a hand in causing them. My mom has always known and loved me, and she's always known that I've been different, and I've never questioned whether or not she's loved me. But she's also shown up for me. She is also not one to bail out on me when I get frustrated and overreact, which I try not to do. She's quick to forgive. Myers-Briggs personality profile, ENFP. My grandma, who has the same personality profile, I lived with until I was 8 years old. She was critical in me understanding me and my encouraging my brain to work in different ways. She always told me I was such a special little guy. As an adult, she helps me to remember my history and helps me to keep perspective on me. My musical friend and shaman I bragged about earlier, Andrew, has been nominated for a Grammy. Andrew has also been a rock in my life, and although we will go months without talking, we always fall right back in. He understood early how intense I am and balances me out significantly. Myers-Briggs type, ENFP. My cousin, Bridget, was the person that realized I was spinning and pushed me to get checked into the VA facility. After my divorce and everything that followed, my routines were shot, all of my safety space was gone, and I started losing friends. And Bridget read MGGRE. She knew that something was wrong. She has known me since we were babies and recognized Aspergers in our own family members before I did, although she stopped short of talking to me about mine. She is another person I can go months or years without talking to, and we can jump right back in like no time has passed. We talk music, life, and both write poetry and books. Myers-Briggs personality profile, ENFP. I'm sensing a trend. My best friend, Zach, has known me since we were getting ready to start third grade. He knows I'm a little weirdo, and was a little weirdo, and he now knows that I'm a big weirdo, and he loves me anyway. I enjoy the way that his brain works and the way that he looks in the world, and he considers things that I would not. He also plays drums, and we've been playing music together since we were in 10th grade. Myers-Briggs type, ESTP, music. Music has been a buffer for me to deal with the world since a very young age. I remember watching a commercial a long time ago, and I can't remember which artist was talking, but they were talking about walking down the street with headphones on. They mentioned that when they walk down the street listening to Tupac and look at the people around them, they feel differently than when they walk down the street while listening to Bob Marley. Music is a driver, a buffer, and what bonds me to many of the people in my life that I love so much. I enjoy hip-hop immensely. When I work, I love to have it on. We always had hip-hop playing before all of our work meetings when I ran the homes team. And before I had started playing it for everyone else, I just listened to it on my headphones. At a certain point in my career, I decided it was part of team culture. And I started telling people in interviews that we listen to hip-hop. That being said, sometimes it can make work a rough transition when I'm trying to get out of work mode. I'll switch to a happy list or my Mozart playlist. And most of the time that works. There are other times where no matter what I do, it helps to listen to hip hop. It calms me down and gives everything around me structure. The beat is important. I can't stand music that feels chaotic. Metal and some jazz gets too far off in left field for me. I go to the same tattoo artist every time because he does not allow anyone to listen to metal in his shop, and he's excellent. Being around bad music puts me in a terrible mood. It's not like, oh, I just really hate that bad music. It literally pisses me off. Even with my own band, I have to be careful. If something isn't working and the music starts feeling like noise, I cut it. I'm not the best musician or singer in the world, but there are certain types of music that I just can't stand. I can't stand anything too processed or empty, but that's taste. It has nothing to do with being ASD. I just hate songs where the singer is a sock puppet and the words mean nothing to them. I put together a playlist with songs that are familiar, that keep me grounded, or influence me to be in certain types of moods. Some of my playlists are for me, and people will remark on how bizarre the mix is because I enjoy a wide variety of music. It can be difficult to go day in and day out in an industry or school where people don't understand you. It takes constant courage, and sometimes the best kind of courage is a chip on your shoulder. That being said, hip hop does not give me a chip on my shoulder. Hip hop smooths me out and softens my edges. It's more of my baseline. I can be in a great mood while listening to hip hop. I also enjoy new folk music, jam bands, a lot of new music, classic rock, and I enjoy Mozart a great deal. I can't stand his operas or anything that gets too chaotic. I have a Mozart playlist that balances me out, and I love to play it in the evenings with the kids. I have to shut everything else off if people try to play me new music. It makes me very uncomfortable. I'd rather listen to new music by myself and decide if I like it. When people want me to listen to new music on their phones while they're talking to me, it stresses me out. I will listen to anything that anyone sends me by myself, on my headphones, or on my speaker. I don't know why it causes me so much stress, but it does. I love concerts in certain venues of bands that I enjoy or discover because I get to tune into the music. I get very excited, and I dance, and I bounce around. I'm the fan that all musicians love in the audience because I'm a huge dude, and I dance to music that I enjoy, which makes other people feel more comfortable or uncomfortable, which is okay too. This is difficult for me to move on from music because, like my last book, all I want to do is get lost in a chapter about Tom Petty, the Avett Brothers, Eminem, Snow the Product, B.O.B., Logic, and Royce the 5'9", but this is not going to be that book. Okay. Remember to understand what music or your environment does to you. I'm very sensitive to music and sound because I have trouble tuning anything unfamiliar out. It helps me to establish a baseline for my ears when I'm able to set a room tone to settle into. I can more easily process my surroundings. People have suggested earpieces that make white noise to me, but I enjoy listening to my music. It may feel uncomfortable for somebody talking to me when I have one headphone on, but once I settle into a conversation, I can normally take them both off. I also have to remain cognizant of my environment while I sleep. I have a great deal of trouble staying asleep without a noisemaker playing white noise. I have blackout curtains in my room, and I can't sleep with a lot of lights on around me. I can't fall asleep to flickering lights or stay asleep with changing lights. I can't fall asleep to music, especially unfamiliar music. And if I fall asleep to music with vocals, they have to be familiar vocals like I did in Afghanistan. I also like to sleep with a blanket on me from my head to my toes with it wrapped under my feet. In the Marine Corps, people would sleep anywhere at any time. I couldn't fall asleep like this unless I was completely exhausted. Now, your buffers or your life guides that keep you on the up and up while navigating the waters of life, the guides that keep you on the straight and narrow when necessary and let you know when you can cut loose and blaze your own path. The world can be dangerous, so be dangerous. Be dangerous by knowing who you are and by understanding your deficiencies and then by not being threatened by them. Be dangerous by learning your manual, cover to cover, and becoming an expert in you. Be dangerous by knowing beyond all reasonable doubt that you were never meant to be normal. How extraordinarily boring would it be to live a mundane existence, being entertained by the superfluous? I was recently called a snowflake by a grown man online. The context doesn't matter. What matters is that we are shaming people for being unique. So should we all go around and call one another sheep like that would be a compliment? Should we all blend in and act like one another and think the same and act the same? I was so blown away by the idiocy of this insult that I convinced myself that it didn't need a response. Why would I want to convince someone of anything that believes that our highest standard in life is to fit in? I don't believe a person with a brain that believes everyone should fit in is worthy of a conversation. I had a t-shirt for years that said, "I'm unique," with a big picture of a snowflake on it. I wish I hadn't thrown it out. I would have put it right on right there and posted a picture of a selfie. So just saddle up with people that make you better. It doesn't have to be an entire group of friends that meets at a coffee house regularly. You don't need a group of friends that you go drinking with. You don't need to keep a regular lunch schedule with an entire networking group. You can have a few individuals that you are bonded strongly to, who understand you are not going to check in with them every few days. I have friends that enjoy the irregularity of our friendship. Just like a superhero that has his own motorcycle that he can hop on moments like Wolverine, or a fortress of solitude like Batman, or excuse me, a fortress of solitude like Superman, or a Batcave like Batman. So we must have the ability to recess into our brains. It is okay to have friends that only know Bruce Wayne and others that only see Batman. Very few people will get to see both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Our superheroes have always done a great job with compartmentalization. When they can't compartmentalize and friends from the office see Batman when he takes off his mask, it means trouble for everyone. Some people are worth both, but not all of them. To give a more practical example, the Spartans used to make wooden twig bracelets that they would inscribe on each end with an initial or with his mark. And then they would break the twig unevenly in half, leaving one half behind with the regiment, and then wearing the other half on his body into battle. This way they could identify who would return home from battle and who would not at the end. Each man would come forward and claim his ticket as it was called out. The ones that did not come forward marked the dead or the severely wounded. The Spartans used to break the twigs before they headed into combat. One half symbolized the wine half. The other half symbolized the blood half. When a man seats before his eyes, bronze face of his helmet, and steps off the line of departure, he divides himself, as he divides his ticket, into two parts. One part he leaves behind, that part which takes delight in his children, which lifts his voice in the chorus, which clasps his wife to him in the sweet darkness of their bed. That half of him, the best part of him, a man sets aside and leaves behind. He banishes from his heart all feelings of tenderness and of mercy, all compassion and kindness, all thought or concept of the enemy as a man, a human like himself. He marches into battle bearing only the second portion of himself, the baser measure, that half which knows only slaughter and butchery and turns a blind eye to quarter. He could not fight at all if he did not do this. Now then this man returns alive out of the slaughter. He hears his name called and he comes forward to take his ticket. He reclaims that part of him which he had set aside earlier. When a man joins these two pieces of his ticket together and sees them weld in union, he feels that part of him. That part that knows love, mercy, and compassion come flooding back over him. This is what unstrings his knees. What else can a man feel at that moment than the most profound thanksgiving to the gods for reasons unknowable that have spared his life this day? Tomorrow, their whim may alter. Next week, next year. But this day, the sun still shines upon him. He feels the warmth upon his shoulders. He beholds about him the faces of his comrades whom he loves. And he rejoices in their deliverance and in his own. Trauma is not unique to the combat community. We all deal with trauma in one capacity or another. We hoard it like it belongs to us. In the ASD community, we often internalize a lot of the pain and anxiety that we are feeling, and we push forward with our blood half, moving through life with our coping mechanisms and keeping people out. I don't want you to move through life as half a person anymore. I know what that is like, to operate on coping mechanisms and a mask. Not being understood is extraordinarily lonely and isolating. The loneliness and the struggle is what's killing people. We are not alone in our struggle. As the names are read off by King Leonidas, the men shake and tremble. Some of them weep openly. This is not looked down on at the other men that gather in groups of twos or threes for comfort as they wait for the names to be read out, as they wait to claim that other half of them that feels compassion, love, and understanding. We have this thought of Spartans as these unemotional killing machines, but this process is actually called fear shedding by the Spartans. It doesn't help them deny that trauma happened, but instead it allows them time to grieve it as a whole person. These friendships are not just suggested, they're healthy. It is our key past shame, guilt, and anxiety, and into love and understanding. Having neurotypical friends gives me the opportunity to look at the world through their brains. Understanding my autism also gives me a better understanding of other people with other mental health issues, friends that are bipolar, friends that have depression issues, or struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. Everyone is struggling in some capacity or another. We are not so alone in our struggles. Being seen and understood is a gift that being seen and understood is a gift that not everyone will be able to give to you. You don't look for it in the wrong places. Enjoy your friends that enjoy you, and let the others part with fair seas. Above all things, understand yourself. Take this as an opportunity to take a master's class in you. Your autism will be different than anyone else's. In the TED Talk entitled Neurodiversity, The Key That Unlocked My World by Elizabeth Wicklander, she says autism is a spectrum. I had to become like a researcher and collect a lot of information from a lot of different resources over a long period of time. And in order to be able to completely able to understand my unique life as a puzzle, you need to understand you. Friends will help you gain perspective. You will always be autistic, but for the first time in your life, there is no reason to be ashamed of it. We live in a neurodiverse world that has tried to pretend like it is a neurotypical world for a long time. This world could use some neurodiversity to clean things up a bit. There is no need for shame, just understanding. When we can unlock the way our brains work, we will not be victims of them, but we will plant ourselves firmly in the driver's seat of our lives. I love my autism. Why wouldn't I? It's just the way my brain works. If I can't figure it out, that's user error. Our friends, our guides, our buffers will show us new places and new things, but they will also hold up a mirror. We will not always like what we will see, nor will we like the way that we will receive the message. A friend was speaking at a conference recently, and he mentioned that he had been through 2 divorces and was having issues in another relationship. He realized the common denominator was himself. I am the common denominator in all of my failed relationships and friendships. Now that I know how I am designed, a lot of my friends are returning out of the woodwork, and it has been a much better experience living healthy friendships with boundaries. There's an ancient Japanese teaching of the sword, the jewel, and the mirror. The sword symbolizes the fight. The jewel symbolizes wealth, and the mirror is the most important as it represents self-reflection. Our friends give us the opportunity to reflect. They give us a chance to be better people moving forward in our lives. It's not their jobs to be our keepers or to help us deal with everything that happens throughout our day. Nor is it our job to have friends that only want to be rescued. Reading Codependent No More by Melody Beattie made me realize how many of my friends were looking to be rescued. And I was going around trying to control everyone into success. It was an eye-opening book for me. Now, these friendships and parties have always seemed like primitive social gatherings around a water hole where everyone is speaking in a guttural code I have no interest in cracking. I could understand the concepts of a tribe. Tribes are necessary for survival, and because of this, people learn how to live together. I can't understand friendships, and relationships are almost as difficult. They seem fickle and devious at most times. So much is left unsaid. The social contracts we enter into seem like they don't carry much weight over time and are prone to deterioration. Most friendships fall victim to entropy. At the end, most seem to fade out poorly, and all require energy to maintain. I have very few people in my life that I would consider friends. However, I try to remain friendly with everyone. I look to people like we are all travelers. Sometimes we walk with someone down a dirt path for a great long time, only to find at a crossing down the road, the paths split. The only constant in the universe is change. It is always moving, and people are always moving. I don't look at anyone like they belong to me. I am just grateful for the time that we get to travel together, for the stories you may share of where you may have come from, or for a chance to share mine, and for the lessons that we may learn together along the way. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, David Serpa at eXp Realty. Check out Paul from Aspergers from the Inside, and also Amethyst Shaver's Ask an Autistic series. These are all great resources if you are wondering if you are autistic, if somebody around you might be autistic, or if you're just trying to look for some better tools to live a better life. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I look forward to reading the next chapter very soon, and happy Autism Awareness Month.